My name's Adam. I'm 33, and for the past decade, I've been the family ATM with a pulse. It wasn't always like this. I used to think we were close. The kind of family that joked around, looked out for each other, celebrated birthdays with bad cake and worse karaoke. But somewhere along the line, that changed. I got a job straight out of high school, skipped the whole college route, and somehow still managed to build something for myself. I started a logistics company when I was 23, and after 5 years of barely scraping by, something clicked. Contracts poured in. I didn't just survive. I thrived. And when the money started flowing, so did the calls from home. It started small. A couple hundred here, a car payment there. Then came the credit card debt. Mom's dental work. Dad's truck. My sister's tuition. And my brother, Jason, always needed just a bit to hold him over. He was the golden child, even after dropping out of college twice and quitting 3 jobs in a row. But every time he crashed, the whole family acted like it was a fluke. Like Jason just had bad luck, and I had extra to spare. I never really pushed back. I told myself it was fine. That helping family was what you did when you made it. But over the years, I noticed something. Every thank you got shorter. Every request got louder. And somewhere along the way, thank you turned into finally. It all came to a head at Jason's wedding. Now, I had already spent a ridiculous amount to make that day happen. My parents guilt me into it slowly, like boiling a frog. Just help with the venue. Became, well, we can't do flowers without the photographer. Then the cake's not included in catering. And finally, it's Jason's big day. Can't you just cover the rest? And I did. All in, I fronted just under 100 grand. And no one asked me once if that was okay. They just expected it. Like I was paying back some invisible debt I owed them for daring to make it without a degree. The wedding itself was beautiful. I'll give them that. Big vineyard property, sunset lighting, string quartet playing a soft instrumental version of Can't Help Falling in Love. Everything looked like a Pinterest board exploded in real life. But even as people clinked glasses and danced under fairy lights, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't really there. I wasn't listed in the program, wasn't seated near the bridal party, wasn't even asked to speak. I chalked it up to Jason being overwhelmed. Or so I told myself. Then came the speeches. My dad, already a few drinks in, took the mic after the best man. He wore that smug, half smile he gets when he thinks he's being clever. And he looked directly at me. We always knew Jason would find someone special, Dad began, slurring just slightly. He's got charm, good looks, and now he's finally settling down. As for Adam, well, he chuckled, letting the silence drag. He's not married, not educated. But hey, at least he's good for a check. The room erupted in laughter. Not awkward chuckles. Laughter. Even Jason laughed. My mom covered her mouth like it was all in good fun. The bride, Ava, smiled politely but said nothing. And I just froze. I stared at them from my seat. I don't even know how long. I was too stunned to be embarrassed, too numb to be angry. And then something in me snapped. Not like a sudden outburst, but like a string being cut. Quiet. Final. I stood up, walked to the front, and took the mic from my dad. He tried to hand it to me like it was all just a friendly jab, but I didn't look at him. I looked at the crowd. You know what? I said, voice calm. Too calm. He's right. The room quieted. I'm not married. I never got a degree. I don't have a wife or a kid. But I do have something none of you seem to care about. A spine. And a memory. I turned to Jason and Ava. You know that $100,000 wedding gift? The one I wired for this venue. The catering, the band, the designer gown? Forget it. You could hear a fork drop. And before anyone says it was a joke, let me remind you. Jokes usually come with a punchline. That was just you, laughing at the guy who made this all possible. Ava opened her mouth, probably to smooth it over, but I wasn't done. I turned to the guests. I spent the last 10 years making sure this family didn't fall apart. Paid off debts, kept the lights on, covered every emergency Jason created. And in return, I got silence. I got eye rolls. I got treated like a donor instead of a brother. So enjoy the wine, the sunset, the string quartet. Because this is the last check any of you will ever see from me. And then I handed the mic back to the DJ and walked out. Behind me, I heard whispers. Someone gasped. My mom called my name. Not angrily, not even in protest. Just surprised. Like she honestly didn't see this coming. That was the moment I realized something deeply unsettling. They really didn't see it. None of them thought they were doing anything wrong. To them, I was just fulfilling my role, the good son, the one with deep pockets and no backbone. But I was done playing that part. What they didn't know yet, and what would make the next few days very interesting, was that I hadn't just paid for the wedding. I had access. I had receipts. I had leverage. And I had already made a few quiet moves in the background, moves that would leave them scrambling, confused, and for once, completely on their own. But I'll get to that. Let's just say the wedding fiasco was only the first domino. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I drove to a hotel downtown I'd already booked the night before, a quiet corner suite, away from the noise, the congratulations, the fake hugs. I poured myself a glass of water, sat by the window, and watched the city lights blink on one by one. I should have been angry. Maybe I was. But mostly, I felt empty, like someone had been slowly siphoning pieces of me for years, and I'd just now realized the tank was dry. I scrolled through my texts. A few missed calls from my mom. One from Ava. None from Jason. He was probably still celebrating, assuming I'd cool off by morning and quietly foot the rest of the bills. That was his pattern. Mess up, wait it out, rinse and repeat. But this time, I had a different pattern in mind. The first thing I did was open my laptop. I logged into the shared account I'd created for wedding expenses. Yes, shared. When the planning began, I made an account under my name with both Ava and Jason listed as authorized users. Why? Because I wanted a paper trail. I'd been burned too many times covering things off the books. This time, I wanted transparency. Ava's dress, charged to the account. Venue deposit, charged to the account. Every bouquet, napkin, and drunken groomsman's suit rental, all mine. But here's the part they didn't know. I didn't just fund the account. I controlled it. Every transaction, every payout, every transfer, it all required my final approval. And I hadn't cleared the final balance yet. So I didn't. Instead, I paused all outgoing payments and set a freeze. The venue hadn't been paid in full. The caterers were still waiting. The string quartet? Half paid. It wasn't petty. It was practical. If I wasn't family, if I was just a wallet, then let's treat it like business. And when the respect dries up, so does the funding. I stared at the "Are you sure?" confirmation screen for a long minute, then clicked yes. The second thing I did was message a lawyer friend of mine, Miranda. Smart, sharp, and twice as petty as I was when she got fired up. I told her everything. The funding, the contract, the insult, the freeze. She sent me back a laughing emoji and said, "Give me a day. I'll make sure it hurts legally but politely." That was the start. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 6:13 a.m. It was Mom. Adam. Her voice was raspy. "Where are you?" "Why?" "Well, Jason's saying something happened. He said you made a scene." "No, Dad made a scene." I responded. I could hear her exhale slowly, like she was trying to decide how to play it. "Sweetie, you know how he is. He was just joking. Don't call me sweetie." A pause. "Okay," she said, more cautious now. "Look, tensions were high, but we can talk. Jason's hurt. Ava's upset. I'm not your bank anymore." Silence. "I'm serious, Mom. I'm done. You've treated my success like a shared family resource and my life like it's secondary to whatever disaster Jason walked into next. That ends now." Her voice cracked just slightly. "Are you really going to leave your brother high and dry on his wedding day?" I smiled bitterly. I already paid for the champagne. Seems like a fitting toast. I hung up. By noon, the text started. Ava first. "Hey Adam, can we talk?" Followed by, "I didn't know he was going to say that. I'm so sorry." Then Jason. Just 3 words. "We need you." That was rich. They didn't need me the night before when they were laughing in a circle like I was the butt of a sitcom. They didn't need me when they left me off the seating chart. They didn't need me when they booked a $6,000 honeymoon suite in Santorini on my card. Oh yeah, that was next. I called the travel agency I'd booked the honeymoon through, because of course they had delegated even that to me, and canceled everything. The deposit? Non-refundable. The rest? Unpaid. By 2 p.m., I got a call from Jason. He didn't open with "Hello. You canceled our honeymoon?" "Yup. You're being insane, man. That was low. You can't just." "I didn't. You did. When Dad humiliated me and you laughed. You know what he's like." "Yeah," I snapped. "I do. That's why I'm finally doing something about it." He started to say something, but I was done. "Jason, I gave you everything. And every time I did, you treated it like it was owed. You treated me like a backup plan. So here's the new plan. There is no backup. Figure it out. I ended the call and muted the thread. Then I took a deep breath, leaned back in the chair, and let the silence settle around me. But the fallout? That was just beginning. Because I hadn't just frozen payments and canceled travel plans. No, I had one more piece of the puzzle to play. One last move that would shift the ground beneath them completely. A move tied to the house. Not the one I lived in. I kept my space modest. A two-bedroom condo, modern, quiet, just enough room for peace and a home office. I'm talking about their house. The one my parents had gifted to Jason and Ava as a wedding present. Except here's the catch. I was the one who bought it. 3 years ago, after Dad's heart scare and Mom's surgery, the pressure started to mount. They said they needed to downsize, claimed the old house was too much, too far from hospitals. The mortgage was behind. So I stepped in, bought the place outright, cleared the debt, even had the deed moved into a trust one managed. They lived there comfortably, rent-free, under one condition: no major changes or transfers without my approval. Fast forward to the month before the wedding. One night, during dinner, Dad casually mentioned that they were thinking of gifting the house to Jason and Ava, start them off right. I thought he was joking. Why would you do that? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. Well, Mom said, buttering a roll. Jason's starting his life, and he needs stability. Besides, you've always said you didn't want the house. That's because I own it, I replied slowly. It's not a hand-me-down. I paid for it. Dad waved a hand. Semantics. It's all family. I should have stopped it right then. I should have been firmer. But part of me, the stupid, loyal, still trying part, thought it was just a thought. A conversation over dinner. Not a plan. Turns out, while I was funding a wedding, my parents had started paperwork behind my back. They didn't tell me because they assumed I'd come around. They assumed, like always, that I'd keep paying and smiling. But now it was time to educate them. Miranda came through the next morning. She sent me a neat, 2-page document. It outlined exactly how the house was tied up in the trust, how no transfers could legally happen without my signature, and how any unauthorized attempt would not only be void, it would also be fraudulent. I forwarded it to my parents with no message. Just the PDF. It took 38 minutes for Dad to call. You think you're being clever? He growled, skipping the greeting entirely. You're gonna humiliate your family over a piece of paper? No, I said flatly. You already did that last night. There was a pause. You always take things so personally, he muttered. And you never take anything seriously. I snapped. You stood there in front of everyone and called me a checkbook with legs. You all laughed like it was true. So now I'm just living up to the role, shutting it closed. You're being dramatic. No, I repeated. I'm being done. I hung up. 10 minutes later, my mom texted. It was long, rambling, a mix of guilt-tripping and half-hearted apologies. We didn't mean it like that. You know your father's sense of humor. Jason was just nervous and went along with it. Ava feels awful. Please don't punish everyone for one moment. I didn't respond. Instead, I picked up the phone and made another call to the trust manager. I asked him to initiate a notification process, send certified letters to my parents, Jason, and Ava informing them that the house would remain in trust and any attempts to occupy or alter ownership without permission would result in legal action. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about sending a message, a final message. But I didn't stop there. Because if they thought the wedding fallout was bad, wait until they realized what I'd done to the business fund. See, last year, Jason came to me with what he called a can't-miss investment. He wanted to start a gym, nothing fancy, just weights and cardio and a smoothie bar. He had no plan, no partners, no experience. But he had the confidence of a man who'd always had a net beneath him. Still, I gave him $40,000 with a contract. I told him I wasn't giving him the money, I was loaning it. At 0% interest, generous terms, and repayment deferred for 6 months. He signed the contract with a grin like he'd just passed a pop quiz. He never paid a cent back. And I never pressed it until now. That same morning, I had Miranda prepare a letter of intent to collect. Full amount. 30-day notice. Failure to respond would result in civil litigation and seizure of assets tied to the LLC he'd lazily set up under his name. Was it harsh? Maybe. But after years of being their fallback plan, I finally realized something. They'd never change if they didn't have to. And for the first time in my life, I was giving them no choice. By the end of the week, the calls had turned frantic. Ava left me a voicemail, crying softly. I didn't know they'd done that. I didn't know about the house or the money. I swear I didn't. Please don't ruin our lives over a joke. Jason's a good man. He looks up to you. That one almost got me. Almost. But I remembered how she laughed. Maybe not loudly, but enough. Enough to stand beside them, not with me. So I didn't respond. Instead, I called the bank to review my auto payments. One by one, I shut them off. My parents' car insurance, the utilities, the phone plan I'd quietly been covering for 3 of their lines, my mom's recurring pharmacy charge, Jason's business card, Ava's student loan. Yes, I'd been helping with that, too. It all stopped. And as the silence stretched into days, then a week, I started to feel something new. Not guilt, not spite, relief. For the first time in years, I didn't wake up with 10 demands waiting in my inbox. I didn't brace myself every time the phone buzzed. I didn't feel like my success was a shared pie everyone else got a slice of while I cleaned up the crumbs. But deep down, I knew the silence wouldn't last forever. And I was right. Because last night, someone knocked on my door. It was close to 10 p.m. when the knock came. Not a soft tap, but a firm, deliberate 3-hit rhythm. I was halfway through a documentary with my phone on silent and a warm mug of tea in hand. I muted the TV and just waited. I live in a secured building, and nobody just shows up. Not unannounced. Not at that hour. The knock came again. I stood slowly, set my mug down, and walked to the peephole. Jason. Of course it was Jason. He was dressed in that same ill-fitting blazer he wore to every job interview he never followed through on. No tie. Hair messy, like he'd driven over in a rush. He looked, not angry, but rattled. His eyes were red, not from crying, probably from exhaustion or stress, and he was gripping something in his hand. A folder. I didn't open the door. Adam, he said, raising his voice just enough to be heard through the wood. Please. Just 5 minutes. I didn't answer. He stood there in silence for a few seconds, then sighed, leaned forward, and rested his forehead on the door. I messed up. Okay. I messed up. Still, I said nothing. I thought I could fix it, he muttered. I thought if I handled the honeymoon stuff, or talked to Dad, or made Ava reach out, something would give. But it's just. His voice cracked. It's just all falling apart, man. I leaned my head against the door too. We were inches apart, separated only by a slab of oak and a decade of resentment. He sniffed. They're panicking. Mom's having these dizzy spells. Dad's pretending like he's not worried, but he called me 3 times today asking if the notice was real. Ava's been staying with her parents because she's embarrassed. The business is, he trailed off, then let out a weak laugh. I'm behind on payroll. I don't even have staff, just 2 guys who won't stop texting me about invoices. I tried to sell the sound system from the wedding to cover rent, but it turns out we never owned it. I didn't move. Not yet. Then came the softer tone. The one he used when we were kids, and he got in trouble and needed me to lie for him. I know I don't deserve anything from you right now, but I thought maybe you'd want to see this. He held the folder up to the peephole. It's everything. The wedding budget. The statements. I annotated what came from you, what came from us. Ava didn't know most of it. She was told your gift was just the catering. I didn't tell her about the rest because, I don't know, pride maybe. He lowered the folder. And the gym. The papers. The lease. I wrote a letter too. It's probably pathetic, but it's in there. I didn't want you to think I didn't care. I did. I do. I just didn't know how to show it without looking weak in front of them. There was a long pause. I looked up to you, you know. Still do. I got used to everyone else acting like your success wasn't real because it didn't come with a diploma or a wedding ring. But it was real. You made it real. And I was jealous. That's the truth. Jealous you didn't need their approval. Jealous you didn't need mine. I finally spoke. Leave the folder. He hesitated. That's it. For now. Another long silence. Then a quiet, okay. I heard the rustle of paper as he slid it under the door. When I opened the door a few minutes later, the hallway was empty. Just the folder resting against the frame like a white flag. I carried it to the kitchen, flipped on the light, and sat at the table. I didn't even touch my tea. Just opened the folder and started reading. Jason had, in fact, gone through the effort. There were spreadsheets, receipts, handwritten notes, little yellow tabs sticking out with scribbled explanations. This was Adam. Forgot to thank him. Dad insisted on this. Overpriced. Ava thought this was from her parents. My fault. And then the letter. It wasn't long. Barely a page. But it was real. No fake apologies, no excuses. Just an acknowledgement. A raw, fumbling attempt to admit fault without groveling. Jason wasn't good with words, but the guilt was there. The shame. And maybe, buried deep, a flicker of actual remorse. Still, a letter and a spreadsheet don't undo years of being taken for granted. They don't erase the fact that he laughed when Dad mocked me. They don't magically refill a well that's been bone dry for years. But they were a start. I placed the letter face down and leaned back in my chair. And then my phone buzzed. It was an email from the venue coordinator. Subject line, urgent, payment dispute escalation. Apparently, Jason had tried to cover the unpaid balance using one of the shared cards I'd frozen. The transaction failed. The coordinator had called my office, thinking maybe I'd changed banks. She was giving me 48 hours to resolve the issue before involving their legal department. I stared at the screen for a long time. And that's when it hit me. Jason hadn't come to apologize. He'd come to buy time. I stared at the email a little longer, rereading it just to be sure. 48 hours. Legal escalation. Payment dispute. So that was it. That was the real reason he showed up. Not to take accountability. Not to finally grow up or fix anything. Just to stall. To hit the brakes before the whole thing crashed in public, or worse, on paper. And it worked. For a second, I almost believed he'd changed. Almost. I closed my laptop and pushed the folder away like it was something rotten. The numbers, the letter, all of it suddenly felt hollow. Strategic. Just another Hail Mary, to save face while still clinging to the same entitlement that had been choking this family for years. And I was done letting it wrap around me. The next morning, I called the venue coordinator. Hi, this is Adam Knox. I'm the original point of contact for the booking. Oh, yes, Mr. Knox, I'm glad you called. We've had some issues with payment. I'm aware, and I'm here to resolve it. Perfect, she said. So, should I reprocess the... I'm not paying it. There was a pause. I'm sorry. I'm formally withdrawing as the responsible party. The individuals who hosted the event misrepresented their financial position, and the account is no longer authorized for this transaction. Please forward any claims to Jason Knox and Ava Lang. They were the primary beneficiaries, and I am removing my name from all future correspondence. Do you understand? Another pause. Yes, I understand. Good. One more thing. They tried to use a frozen card yesterday. That card was never meant for them. You should inform your legal department before reprocessing. I'll make a note of that. Great. Have a nice day. And just like that, I severed the final thread. That afternoon, I submitted the formal complaint against Jason's Gym LLC for breach of contract. The papers were ready. Miranda helped file everything, court-ready, airtight. Not to crush him, but to make it real, to hold him accountable, like any adult would be. I also notified the trust manager to remove all secondary permissions from the house. No more keys issued. No updates allowed. Jason and Ava's wedding gift was officially off the table, permanently. Later that evening, I turned my phone off and poured myself a fresh cup of tea. No calls, no texts, no guilt. 3 days passed. On the 4th, I got a certified letter at my office, a notice from Jason's attorney. Well, his new attorney. A desperate bid to negotiate repayment terms and delay the lawsuit. I had Miranda respond with a single line. Settlement requires full admission of responsibility and public withdrawal of all prior family claims of financial contribution. The letter she got back from them? Nothing but insults and hollow threats. That told me everything I needed to know. Jason wasn't sorry. He was just scared. Eventually, word spread to the rest of the family. My mom left a voicemail, long, tearful, saying things like, "You're tearing us apart, and this isn't what family does." My dad didn't call at all. He just sent a single text. "You'll regret this someday." I didn't reply. I saved it, printed it out, actually, and taped it inside the folder Jason left behind. A reminder of why I was doing all this. Not out of cruelty, not out of spite, but because I finally saw the truth. They weren't family. They were tenants on a sinking ship, and I'd spent a decade bailing water while they laughed from the upper deck. The moment I stopped, they blamed me for the flood. So I let the ship sink, and I walked away. It's been 6 months. The lawsuit settled quietly. Jason paid back part of the money after liquidating the gym. Ava left him. Apparently, she found out about a few more lies tucked away between bad investments and family stress. My parents downsized again, this time to a small rental they can barely afford. The utilities? The car insurance? The phone plan? That's on them now. And me? I'm good. Better than good. I travel. I read. I laugh at stupid movies. I go entire weeks without a single phone call asking for money. I'm not just the guy who made it anymore. I'm the guy who kept it by finally letting go. And in case you're wondering, no, I don't regret it. Not even a little.
Thank you for watching the entire video. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel.